Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, we've all been there, right? You're cruising along and suddenly, bam, a major project deadline gets completely blown and almost instantly, everyone on the team starts pointing fingers at each other. It's a universally relatable, honestly kind of exhausting workplace nightmare. But today, we're talking about how to take all that chaotic energy and transform it into absolute clarity. We're going to build your ultimate project tracking superpower. Picture this. You're in the thick of a classic, fast-paced tech rollout. We're talking 6 massive deliverables that are all due over just 3 short weeks. Your one job is to make sure absolutely nothing falls through the cracks and that your manager always knows exactly where things stand. Now, imagine trying to manage that whole shebang by just relying on your memory or digging through scattered email threads. Seriously, if you walk up and ask 5 people on that project team for the status of just one single deliverable, you are going to get exactly 5 completely different answers. One person's like, oh, it's mostly done. Another just assumes someone else was handling it. And a third person didn't even realize it was due this week. Without a visible shared system, you're creating instant ambiguity. Disagreements about status happen constantly, simply because, let's face it, human brains are highly unreliable storage drives for complex project data. So let's fix that. Here is the step-by-step system we're covering in today's explainer. Converting chaos to clarity, setting up the 5 columns, defining your status vocabulary, nailing the weekly check-in, and finally communicating delays. Let's dive in. All right, part 1, converting chaos into clarity. Here's a really fascinating truth about all this. A missed deadline is almost never a surprise to the person who actually missed it, but it is always a massive surprise to everyone else. The failure usually isn't the actual work itself, it's the failure of the communication and visibility systems surrounding that work. Once you really internalize that, it completely flips your professional habits upside down. Just look at the amateur reactive approach compared to proactive tracking. A reactive approach surfaces a problem the literal day a deadline is missed, and by then, your options are entirely gone. Proactive tracking, on the other hand, surfaces problems while there's still plenty of time to pivot and respond. Not only does this save the project, but maintaining a highly accurate tracker screams professionalism. It actively protects your reputation because it proves you saw the risks coming a mile away. Moving right along to part 2, the 5 essential columns. This is where we literally build your new organizational tool. You've got to frame your deadline tracker as a highly structured spreadsheet. Think of it as a shared home where every single project deliverable gets its own dedicated room. To build this, you seriously only need 5 columns to cover the absolute basics. First up is task name. And you've got to be specific here. Q3 client report final draft is perfect. Just writing report is basically useless. Second is the owner. And listen to this part carefully. Owners must always be singular. One person per task. If a task is owned by the team, well, it essentially has no owner. Third is your due date, formatted chronologically, like year, month, day, so you can actually sort your timeline. Fourth is status, and 5th is notes, which is really where the context and the whole story behind the work lives. Okay, section 3, defining your status vocabulary. Now, you might be thinking a status column is a no-brainer, right? Well, if you allow free text entries where people arbitrarily type done or finished or, my personal favorite, almost there, your tracker isn't giving you data, it's just generating noise. The value of this column relies entirely on everyone using the exact same predefined words. You absolutely have to make a hard-line distinction between 2 highly specific statuses, blocked and at risk. You really need to understand this difference to track effectively. Blocked specifically means your progress is halted by an external dependency, like you literally cannot move forward without a decision, a file, or some action from someone outside yourself. At risk, however, means there's a broader problem that is going to result in a missed deadline if it isn't fixed. It's a general, flashing danger sign for your timeline. So the key here, you have to enforce this consistency rigidly. Lock it down with a data validation drop-down list containing exactly these options: not started, in progress, complete, at risk, and blocked. By taking away the ability to just freely type whatever in this column, you instantly eliminate the single most common source of tracker unreliability. Which brings us to section 4, the weekly check-in habit. Look, a gorgeous, perfect tracker that hasn't been updated in 3 days is, well, it's 3 days behind reality. In a fast-moving project, 3 days is a lifetime.
It's plenty of time for a deliverable to silently drift from in progress straight into at risk with literally nobody noticing. To stop that from happening, you need a recurring 15-minute weekly maintenance routine. Throwing this on the calendar for a Friday afternoon works perfectly for most teams.
The exact procedural rhythm of this check-in is what keeps the engine humming. Step 1, just open the tracker. Step 2, look at every single task currently marked in progress and verify it. Step 3, ask the 3 vital questions. And Step 4, brief the team. The biggest trap you've got to avoid here is looking at a task, knowing it needs an update, and telling yourself, I'll do it later. Later turns into tomorrow, then next week, and suddenly your manager wants a status report that you absolutely cannot give them.
Let's zoom in on Step 3 for a second. For every single in-progress task, you need to ask 3 vital questions. Number 1, has meaningful work actually happened since the last review? Number 2, is the owner still on track to hit that due date? And number 3, has any blocker or risk emerged? Only after you ask those questions should you shoot over that brief 2 to 4 bullet status summary to your manager covering what's done, what's moving, and what needs a decision.
Finally, Section 5, communicating delays like pros. I know. This is the emotionally draining part of the job. Nobody, and I mean nobody, likes flagging a task as at risk or telling the boss a deadline is going to blow past us. It feels awful. But we really need to radically reframe how we look at flagging a delay. Actually, think of it this way. Hiding the problem is the actual admission of failure. The delay itself isn't the failure. Hiding it is. Flagging a task as at risk early on is a proactive demonstration of supreme professionalism. By doing that, you're buying your organization the precious time it needs to respond, shift resources, and manage client expectations way before the house actually catches on fire. Listen to this gold standard for a professional delay message. The Q3 client report is currently at risk of missing the Friday deadline. The data export from the finance team was delayed by 2 days. I'm expecting the export by end of day Thursday. Based on that, I expect to deliver the completed report by Monday morning. I flagged this in the tracker. Notice how beautifully structured that is? It owns the delay without making whiny excuses, explains the exact reason, gives a revised estimate, and immediately mitigates the impact. As we wrap up the actual mechanics of all this, there is one absolute non-negotiable rule. Do not break this one. The tracker is a shared source of truth. Because of that, you must never change a deadline silently. If a date has to move, update the tracker, write a note explaining why, and directly message every single person who is impacted by that shift. Moving a due date like a ghost in the night creates massive confusion and, trust me, it will severely damage your credibility with the team. So, wrapping up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a challenge. Think about the projects you are juggling right this very second. Are you relying on a highly flawed, incredibly stressful human memory system to keep it all afloat? Or are you ready to start building real infrastructure for clarity? Stop relying on your memory, kill the guesswork, and start leveraging your new deadline tracker superpower. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to explore this framework. I can't wait to catch you on the next explainer.